Wasabi Wallet. Unfairly private.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Why Are We Bullish? I am still on the road. I'm here in Greece, specifically the island of Zakynthos, and I've got a killer panel. Very excited to have everybody on this evening. Of course, please do hit like, subscribe, share. All of those things really help get this content in front of more eyeballs. As always, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, LEDN.io, where you can use your Bitcoin for a variety of different services. Of course, if you're in a pinch and you need to get your hands on dollars, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin because, of course, that's a taxable event, and maybe you're worried about having to buy back in at a higher price, their Bitcoin-backed loans could be for you. Very easy. Deposit Bitcoin, get dollars to your bank account within 24 hours. When you pay back those dollars, you get back the same number of sats. Of course, they also have their savings accounts for Bitcoin and USDC, and they have their B2X offering, which can double your Bitcoin if you're feeling mega bullish. Be sure to check them out. Links are down below, and if you use one of those links to get a loan product, they'll give you $25 for free into your savings. If you're stacking sats in Canada, Bitbuy is a super easy way to do so. They've got a seamless web interface. They've got a super easy to use and convenient app that you can get on iOS or Android. And after your first $250 purchase, they give you $20 for free, which is a nice feeling, warm and fuzzy. So be sure to check them out. I do live on Bitcoin, so Bitrefill really helps me with this. They have every gift card you could possibly imagine, and you can pay for it with Bitcoin on main chain or Lightning Network. Of course, I'm always using Lightning on there. Super easy, instant. And the other beautiful thing about it is you earn sats back as you spend. And they've got a killer referral program too. So if you got friends and family that might want to use it, that can help as well. So be sure to check them out. Links are below. Now, you guys know the Keystone, one of my favorite and most used hardware wallets out there. It is beautiful because it is 100% air gapped. That means you never plug it in. It's all done offline via QR code, keeping your funds safe and away from any sort of internet connection. Check them out. It is, of course, previously named the Kobo Vault. There is a rebrand and some little upgrades to check out. So be sure to check them out. And of course, it works with all of my favorite wallets like Blue Wallet and Wasabi Wallet and Spectre and Sparrow and all of that good stuff. And pretty solid with a multi-sig setup too. And finally, if you're backing up any important Bitcoin wallet, get that backup in solid steel. I have heard horror stories in the past where people leave it in paper and, you open yourself up to fire damage, water damage, or somebody just discarding it because they don't know what it is. Steel helps mitigate those risks. So be sure to check out the BillFodl over at privacypros.io. Enough of my rambling. Let's bring in our panel. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Why Are We Bullish? I am still on the road here in Greece. I'm in Zakynthos this week, and because of my locale, I'm able to get a different set of guests from this side of the pond on the show. And I'm very excited to have my panelists this week. We're going to go down the line, get some intros here, and then we'll dive into our reason for being bullish. So let's start with Obi. Obi, let people know who you are and what you do.
Hey, my name's Obi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CoinFloor, the UK's longest running Bitcoin exchange.
Awesome. That's exciting.
And simple.
And Obi, I think, tell me the exchange, did you guys kind of got some press like a while back for some, I don't know if you want to briefly mention that too.
So one, we're the longest running exchange to do provable solvency, proof of reserves. And I think just last week, BitMEX said they're going to do it as well. So that's really good. We're really happy about that. Second thing, a couple of years ago, after a lot of internal conversations and battles, we went back to being Bitcoin only. So we ignored all of the altcoins and shitcoins and all of that sort of stuff and went back to Bitcoin only. Best decision ever made. And we're really excited about that. And then most recently, we just launched our own mobile app. And for dollar cost averaging, if you dollar cost average regularly, you go down to 0 fees. So we're trying to incentivize dollar cost averaging behavior for people. So excited about all of those things.
Fucking A, that's awesome. Let's keep it rolling then. Tomer, let people know who you are, what you do.
Sure. I'm actually from the other side of the pond. I'm from Canada. For the most part, I write about Bitcoin. I have a Medium site. I write almost exclusively about Bitcoin. I wrote one article, which was a takedown of Ethereum, which turned out to be the most popular article I've ever written.
I've shared that quite a few times.
It went bonkers. So that was great, and it made me enthusiastic about seeing how many people share the same views about Bitcoin and the altcoins that don't match any of its features. I also I edit and write for a premium newsletter or research report that Swan Bitcoin puts out. I've been doing that for a couple of months, which is new, and that's really it. I write a lot about Bitcoin. I care a lot about it. I've been involved since 2013 and thinking for 8 years, and then decided to start writing earlier this year, inspired by people like Gigi, who's another guest on the show.
Awesome. Great. Well, with that said, let's move down the line to Jordan. I mean, Russell. I mean, Gigi. Let people know who you are, what you do.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me again. Well, I simply write words and code for Bitcoin. That's what I do. And I'm currently writing code for CT. And so I'm basically in Norway, even though that's not true. I'm in Austria. So I also like to say that's not true because I'm on the internet. That's how it feels. And yeah, I've been doing this for the last couple of years. And I think, Bitcoin won't go away. So I guess I'm going to keep doing this for the next couple of years.
Awesome. Well, dude, I'm glad to have you again. Multiple appearance on the show. So welcome back. And finally, Walton, let people know who you are, what you do.
I'm Walton. I'm a Bitcoin pleb. I am a champion of individuals running their own node, specifically Lightning node. I'm one of the plebnet OGs. For some reason, they became my second family, and it's really grown quite considerably. We've had, I think in the first 40 or 50 members in plebnet. We now have over 3,000 in our community. We have over 600 nodes. We've just gone over 5% of the total liquidity of the Lightning Network. We're using tools as the developers are developing them on top of Lightning. It's essentially the community for Lightning and Lightning node running, and we've got all the different manufacturers of the different or the different OS developers. They're all in this community, all interacting, a kind of neutral, social, strange educational experiment that we have. And it's not about me. It's about enabling that sovereignty, that final step of sovereignty for the individual, which is to be able to make payments with their own Bitcoin without the need for any intermediary.
Still awesome, man. Plebs together strong. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I had no idea how big it was. Now I knew it had grown a ton, but that's awesome to see and hear. And yeah, I need some plebnet help down the line here, because now that my node's been running for a while, it's well connected, but I need to tinker a little bit. I need to optimize, we'll say. So I'll be reaching out, I'm sure.
There are a lot of tools that can help you. You just have to spend a little bit of time learning, but yeah, you're the master.
I will do my best, and yeah, I've got lots of questions. Okay, gentlemen, let's get this thing rolling. So of course, this is Why Are We Bullish? We go by the 3 R's. Number 1, somebody's going to give a reason why they're feeling bullish. Number 2, we're all going to riff on that reason together. and then we're gonna 3 rotate to the next person. Very, very simple. I'm gonna get us started. I'm gonna share my screen for just a second here because I want people to be fully filled in on what I'm talking about. So I will say that my reason for being bullish is that my hardware wallet does not need to be plugged in order to receive Bitcoin.
Where did you get that hardware wallet? Is that a new fan? Is that a new one?
It has to be a matching one.
So for those not in the know, if you have not been on Bitcoin Twitter in the
just
past,
memed this. I just memed this earlier today.
It's so beautiful. So those not in the know, this is Frances Coppola. She has Bitcoin derangement syndrome, but we're just going to take a little jaunt down Twitter lane and listen to her latest insight and the conviction with which she says it. She said, the point is that unless you or your friend leave your hardware wallets online all the time, even overnight, which is a stupid thing to do, you aren't doing 24/7 payments. You're doing payments within a small time window available to both of you. Suppose you're in New York and you have a friend in Australia. That's a 14-hour time difference. So if you message your friend at 10 a.m. Eastern to say you're sending Bitcoin, your friend isn't going to answer you your message, let alone plug in their wallet. They are asleep. So you have to wait until they are awake. If they have an online wallet, you can make a payment. But now we're back to stupidly unsafe practices, aren't we? Truth is, there's no such thing as 24/7 peer-to-peer payments. The hype around this is ridiculous.
Wow, that's when you actually read it out loud.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, Walton, you said there were like 2 British people on this, but unfortunately, you've got Frances on this as well, and it's so embarrassing for British people. Frances Coppola, it's unbelievable.
It's funny, and the best part was that Nassim Taleb came to back her up and said that she had the courage and the technical know-how to say this. It's so hilariously wrong.
What you mean, Mr. Anti-Fragile?
Yeah, and his fragility rubbed off on Frances because she blocked us all. Yeah, she took.
Aren't they married?
God. Can you imagine the hell spawn of a no coiner that would bring together? But I mean, God. I guess my reason for being bullish is how terrible Bitcoin's critics are. Like, Bitcoin has no good critics at this point. It's just the same recycled arguments over and over again. And if it's not a recycled argument, it's something so stupid like this that is just, it's mind-boggling to see. And I mean, I'm also bullish on the meme fodder that stuff like this creates, because it's just like, it was chef's kiss all day long watching the response to this. So I don't know, like, what do you guys think about Bitcoin's critics? Like, and what's the deal? Like, does she, it seems like she legitimately does not understand that you can send a payment to a person and they don't have to be plugged in to receive that.
It's so profoundly ignorant for someone who goes on Twitter and has like, I think she said she knows more about things than other people than even Donald Trump ever said, right? Like, there's a bunch of Twitter feeds where she says, I know more about this than you do, I'm an expert. And to not understand that the Bitcoin are on a blockchain, are on the blockchain, and that you can send them and nobody has to be there to receive them after all this time, and to pretend to be an expert is really, it's really like, I don't even know what the right term for it is, because it's not just ignorant, it's so profoundly dishonest. Like, is it dishonest or ignorant?
No, it's
thanks for this, Walton, by the way.
It's just a level of ego.
This is the meme that I made of it. Like, it's right, and
that's great.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's not ignorant or dishonest. It's just a level of ego which is so large.
Yeah, and you can see that
if you ever interact with her.
You can see that from how high I've put her chin. She's looking down on you. You can't receive your mail if you're not at home.
Yeah.
I mean, she's if you've ever interacted with her on Twitter, it's just very quick. It becomes very clear very quickly that the potential for her to be incorrect just does not enter her mind. It's just not possible. But
Yeah.
I want to go back to something else you were saying, which was like, there are no good critics. I mean, if you went back to 2013, 2011, there were lots of very, very good critics who
I disagree. I think there's a lot of good critics. I think there's a lot of good critics.
Well, I'd say there were a lot of very good critics back then. But what happens is invariably, anyone who's really good ends up becoming a Bitcoin maximalist. Oh, you see the journey. And so all you're left with they were good critics, but now you're left with only the people who think that you cannot send mail to someone without them being at home.
Yeah,
Like
it's natural selection, and only the most stubborn or the most stupid remain, you know, and that's what we see right now. And it's quite incredible, you know. And to be fair, I mean, there are actually smart people that have bad Bitcoin takes, so it takes a while to wrap your head around it. I mean, Elon had a very bad take as well, you know, with like, let's just 10x all the parameters, and then, you know, we scale on chain and blah blah blah. So it's very easy to say ignorant shit about Bitcoin because it's not necessarily an easy thing to understand. But what I would urge any Bitcoin critic is to just use Bitcoin once. You know, if you use Bitcoin once, if she would have used Bitcoin once, it would have been obvious to her that she does not need to be online to receive Bitcoin. And I would urge anyone who thinks Bitcoin doesn't scale or is not fast enough or anything like that, use Lightning, download a wallet, you know, download Reese or something like that sets you up very quickly, and just receive your first payment, you know, and just pay something. It blows people's minds, and it's obvious that the most outspoken critics, they don't use this stuff, and it's very easy to criticize something if you don't understand.
It's amazing.
Of course, you know, like then this will come out.
Yeah. Who out of the critics that we have for Bitcoin right now, who do you guys think is the best critical thinker around this? Like, is there somebody who's like, okay, well, they're thinking through it, but they're not sold, or like, is there somebody who has some good points or some good concerns like that stands out to you guys?
I mean, I think there's valid criticism to be had, but I think it all kind of comes from within, because you have to know Bitcoin really well to criticize it properly. There's valid criticism to be had around, you know, I mean, privacy, obviously, you know, like everyone, like Waxwing, for example, you know, he's working on privacy technology. He has a lot of valid criticism, how a lot of like default on-chain transactions and people use in terms of how to set up their transactions, how this is basically broken or not optimal, and those people are working on improving that. I think there's also a valid criticism to be had for all the parameters we know nothing about yet. You know, like it's surprising to me that the mempool is as empty as it is. So there is criticism to be had around, you know, a fee market forming and so on. I don't think those criticisms are necessarily valid, because we with every bull cycle we see a fee market form, and so I wouldn't be worried about that. But there is valid criticism to be had, but I think it doesn't come from the outside, because, you know, the critics that come to mind are, you know, like Peter Schiff, and that's performance art. It's not criticism.
One thing that.
Go on, Walton.
No, it's okay. You go.
No. Walton, you go.
Go ahead, Walton, and then we'll go Obi.
We're both being British and polite.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
No, please, after you.
No, after you, sir.
A couple of Brits, a couple Canadians, and the Austrian and the American.
Okay.
What in the fuck?
I was going to say Andrew Polstra and Peter Willett are the two people that come to mind. I've read or listened to recently, and they still have many criticisms for Bitcoin, but they're working really hard on resolving those criticisms. You've then got people like Elon Musk, who, you're right, he's an intelligent guy, but he's clearly not had the time or spent the time looking at this properly. So he's based his hypothesis on invalid assumptions. And if you start with invalid assumptions, then anything you come out with at the end is potentially going to be nonsense. This is basic argument and formal reasoning. So you've got people like that who I could say maybe, or they have some other agenda where they have to, for various sort of political or commercial reasons, pretend to not know something. Or you've got people who are within the system who understand its weaknesses because they are working very hard on resolving it. That's my view.
Well, oh, you're muted.
You're silent, Walton.
We can't hear you, Walton. Your mic might have gotten unplugged because it doesn't show a mute thing next to you.
Yeah.
We cannot hear you.
Yeah. You cut.
I'm sure it was very profound, whatever you were going to say.
Read his lips.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
And now
we got it, man.
Yeah. So I came to Bitcoin essentially because I'm a millennial, and I looked at housing prices versus income, and I went, I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a house. So I came in for, I guess, the hedge against the relative asset inflation that I was seeing, back in 2018, just looking and going, well, what can I do? And I was introduced a little bit, but I read into it more and more. But the reason I stayed, and the reason I have tried to talk to more and more Bitcoiners is because we share a lot of principles. We share a lot of shared beliefs. And one of the most important ones for me, and it's something I didn't actually have the ideal description for until I read, somewhat ironically, Ray Dalio's Principles, was this concept of radical truth. And it's something I've lived my life by, and it's something that's got me in a lot of trouble. It's something that's been damaging to relationships. But it's something that I believe is essential for optimal communication that leads to optimal performance, which is something Ray references. One thing I believe about Bitcoiners, particularly that separates them from many other people, is their ability to be open to criticism, and that comes in the form of radical truth, right? If you do something that is questionable, the Bitcoin community will question you, and you better be ready to respond to that, right? right, and that's a good thing. This is a good thing. People call it toxicity. It's not. This is, and sometimes it's premature. Sometimes it's premature. I'll give them that, but this ability for Bitcoiners to be critical of themselves and others, and be open to criticism from others is like iron sharpening iron. It turns, as Obi's saying, and he took the words out of my head, that all the best critics become Bitcoiners. The adversarial thinking actually then further enables things, helps you to maybe improve your security, to if you're a developer, maybe find, ways in which you can contribute to code or all these different things. But that open communication, the radical truth that many of us believe in, is such a phenomenal quality.
Yeah, and I think all the Bitcoiners would agree that, there are things that we just don't know, and we might be wrong, and I think it's very disheartening for most Bitcoin critics that they are so insanely sure. For example, the Bitcoin is going to zero. If you're so sure that Bitcoin is going to zero, then short it. Why are you lamenting about that on Twitter? Why are you profiting from that, And I think it's, for me, it was just weird to see this level of ignorance. Like, I was flabbergasted. I was actually kind of impressed, like I was not even like, if I would write like a very bad fanfic or something, and I would have to come up with the worst Bitcoin criticism that I can think of, I wouldn't have been able to think of that. It's so insanely ignorant. It blows my mind. And this is something where I think, Bitcoin critics just need to do better. And if they won't do better, I think I will just have to disengage, because I don't have time for this, except for, it's entertainment.
I don't have time to explain this to you.
All right. So let's keep it rolling, and let's go down the line now that we've thoroughly roasted Francis and the bad takes that took over Twitter the past 24 hours. We're going to pass it down the line. So I'm going to go to Obi here. And Obi, I'm going to let you enlighten us on what has you bullish this week.
So we just saw the mining difficulty for Bitcoin rise again for 2 consecutive mining difficulty after China tried to banned mining. And we've also seen at the same time with the infrastructure bill, an attempt by the back door to sort of effectively ban mining in the US. Well, at the same time, on the other side of the world, in the southern part of the world, we're seeing in El Salvador and the rest of South America, this explosion of interest in Bitcoin. And where my parents come from in Nigeria, it's incredible. The level of growth in Bitcoin, adoption of Bitcoin is insane. I can give you some numbers, but when polled, half of adults when polled suggested that they own Bitcoin. You're seeing, we're talking about people holding Bitcoin in their treasury. Well, unofficially, because it's not allowed to do it, ask people, company in Nigeria, many as standard hold Bitcoin on their treasuries. They use it for remittance or for buying products importing from China. They use Bitcoin as standard because people in China, companies in China are not willing to, or uncomfortable often to send to Nigeria. But if they're getting a bearer asset, the trust issue goes. So, and I'm hearing as well in Southeast Asia, we're seeing this growth. And this was actually really exciting for me because at the beginning of the year, I made a few predictions like everybody does. And my biggest one was by the end of the year, we're going to start to see the beginnings of the biggest transfer of wealth from the global haves to the global have-nots, i.e. the north of the world to the south of the world has ever seen. And that's bullish because up until now, all the power in the world is in the hands of a few, the old guard, who tend to be in China, maybe in the US and Western Europe. And now it's going to be decentralized to the other 4 or 5 billion people. Southern America, Africa, Southern Europe, Southeast Asia. They're going to have exclusive access in many cases to Bitcoin because the most regulated and the strongest countries are going to do everything in their power to exclude their own countries from having access to this incredible wealth. So I'm really bullish about that because if power is decentralized, that means that it leads to a fairer, more inclusive, more powerful world. It's better for everybody. And that makes me much more bullish than the price.
I love this take, especially because of all of the FUD that we've seen lately, because it's easy to forget that, you know, especially living in Western nations, whether it be, you know, Western Europe or whether it be in somewhere in North America, it's easy to forget that despite the trash regulations that come down the pipe, there's an entire rest of the world that is just aching to get on the Bitcoin standard, and that will benefit so much from it that even if it's temporarily crappy for a certain jurisdiction for a certain period of time, Bitcoin, it doesn't care. It continues to pop out blocks every 10 minutes. And it's just a matter of time before these jurisdictions realize that they're doing more harm to themselves than good. And they've got to jump on the standard too. But I love this point.
Yeah, I think like I often say, you know, Bitcoin Twitter is like 200 people and it's very US centric. And the world is a very large place. And to me, it makes all the sense in the world that certain countries that have like, they were not necessarily on the receiving end when it comes to great banking infrastructure. They will leapfrog the first world countries, definitely. You know, like we saw this also with mobile phones, because you don't need like once you can actually leapfrog certain infrastructure. You know, like you don't need to build the same infrastructure that the West built up. And for Bitcoin, you don't need much. You know, like you only need communication channels. You only need like a very stupid smartphone, and you're already on Bitcoin. And I think we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, and what I would add to that point, Gigi, is the banking infrastructure that we have in the West is one of the worst customer experiences that's ever been engineered in any industry in the world, right? Like to have to go into a bank and send a wire, any time a Bitcoiner does that, they leave and they say, wow, is this ever a terrible experience? Is Bitcoin ever better? So to leapfrog that, especially when you add Lightning to it, and the self-custody things, and the ability to send payments when the other person is not online. Like when you,
what do you mean? What are you talking about? what is this dark magic?
When you have all of these things together.
Go.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up quickly. Like I can send. It sounds like I'm making fun of Francis, but the point that I always say is, without having to go into any institution, I can send any Bitcoin to anyone in the world I want at any point in time, and I don't need anybody's permission. And it's going to happen depending on how much I'm prepared to pay for fees, or if I'm doing it on Lightning, it's going to happen like that, and it's done. And and I don't need any intermediaries. I don't need any permission. I'm sovereign, and I got freedom and control over my money. And so to see this sort of thing happen in parts of the world where they never even had reliable money at all, and by the way, I'm sending reliable money, right?
Yeah.
But where they never even had reliable money, and they never had access to really sending it, so you had to deal locally with whoever would accept it, and the whole system was so corrupt. This just blows it away and does it instant, like it's already, the infrastructure is already there.
It's purpose designed for these parts of the world. They have currencies often have currencies with levels of inflation that make the US level of inflation or the Western levels of inflation and not large levels of inflation. They have very low trust in their authorities already. Very, very low trust.
Yeah.
Growing up, while I was growing up, the news every few years of a Nigerian bank going bankrupt was just a very, very common thing. So you were uncomfortable keeping all your money in banks because it was normal for them to go bankrupt. You also have a situation where they already are used to things like M-Pesa in Kenya, which is digital money payment system. Nigeria has equivalents. There are many Western African countries have equivalents. So they understand the idea of paying digitally by mobile phone. The only issue with those are they've seen that they can be censored, and they also have eye-watering rates of fees for using them. So Bitcoin comes along, Lightning, instant payments, they want to hold money themselves. They're used to hold money themselves. They're cash economies, but they want to interact. They want to grow big business. They want to be able to compete with the rest of the world. They haven't had a level playing field. This gives them a level playing field. They have the same security assurances if they're holding 1 kobo, which is like, I don't know, 1,000 sats, or they're holding $1 billion. You have the same security assurances. They get it, and it's growing like crazy. And so they're going to adopt Lightning, self-custody. You don't even have to educate them. They figure it out. We were talking about education, and I was talking about this on a Twitter space on Casa the other day. And it's like, education is not about dumbing down, it's about leveling up. We're just getting people to understand these new technologies and raise them up to understand them, not try to dumb down. And it's really, really exciting.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, if you have to learn this, people will learn, like if you realize this is such an insanely powerful and useful tool, it doesn't matter if it takes a little bit of work, driving cars isn't easy either, when we manage, like everyone realizes how powerful it makes you if you have autonomy in the physical space where you can move quickly. And I think for this, it's similar. And for these people, it's just obvious that they need this. And so they're going to learn. And I really love what you said, like it's about leveling up. You want to be competent. That's what you want to be. And so people will sit down and learn this stuff. And it's actually not too difficult, like I think we are already at a place where if you know what's happening underneath, kind of, it all makes sense and it's kind of easy to use. So I'm not worried at all about that.
It's not just miners who benefit from proving that they've done the work.
Yeah, exactly. Proof of work is everywhere. Proof of work is how the world works, basically.
Well, and to the leveling up bit here, it's over time, the amount of work that it takes to level up is becoming less and less, right? Like Lightning a few years ago to Lightning now, it's an entirely different ball game. Like if you can jump on plebnet and you can be routing payments and all that. Or if you just want to make payments, you can just download, and in a non-custodial way, you can just download an app and you're rolling. You can jump on Moon, and you can be using main chain and Lightning in a unified balance. It's just there's so much cool stuff happening, and there's people behind the scenes thinking about these things. And it's early, yes. There's lots of work to be done, but seeing the iterations and the improvements and the path that we're on, it's incredible to behold as it happens.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the day that you see, like driver's ed or science or maths or English, you have Bitcoin fundamentals as a course that gets taught ideally with an economics element. That would be so powerful.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's already happening, like the Sailor Academy and also on safety.com. Like it's basically already there, like it's just nobody knows about it yet.
Yeah, and it's not in it's not in your normal run-of-the-mill government sanctioned school.
Yeah.
It's you have to go elsewhere to, you're not going to fiat school, right?
But that will probably remain to be the case for a little while.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's part of the
Yeah,
program.
this is fine.
If we didn't, we'd have folks like Frances dictating how to teach about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? Like she'd become the minister of Bitcoin education.
First of all, everybody plug in your hardware wallets, okay? All right, let's keep this rolling. I love that topic. Thank you, Obi, for bringing that up. We're going to jump next to Tomer. Tomer, take a moment.
Yeah.
Let us know why you're feeling bullish.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talked about critics, and Obi talked about other Bitcoin users, and for me, the thing that makes me the most bullish is the Bitcoin plebs and the conviction that people have now, and the reason for their conviction. It's not before, the people who had conviction, it was about getting wealthy. It was about Lamborghinis, right? Like when nobody is talking about Lamborghinis now, everyone is talking about freedom and fairness and justice. And those are things that matter a lot more to people than a fancy car, than a toy that they'll be tired with. You're not going to get tired of being free, and you're not going to get tired of living in a world with justice. And that's what everything that I see happening, like the Bitcoin meetups I go to, that's what the Bitcoiners want to talk about. That's what they want to hear about. They want to, and they're critical thinkers, as we discussed. They want to explore topics. They're prepared to admit, as Walton, you said, every one of them is prepared to admit, I don't know X. I don't know Y. And in many cases, nobody knows these things. So we're on a journey to discover the truth. And it'll take however long it actually takes to discover the truth. And that's really lovely, right? Like we're not convicted in our answers that we have all the right answers. We're convicted in our quest for the truth. And I changed my Twitter profile. I said I'm a slayer of lies, and that's what I want to do, is like tear down all of the dishonesty that our world is infected with, and help people see that if they don't know the truth, they don't have to make up an answer, Francis, right? Like we can admit that we don't know things, and we can learn from there. Right? We don't know how to solve every problem in Bitcoin, but by admitting that where a problem might be, we can turn our heads to it and figure it out. And that's the most amazing thing about people. And that's the thing that really is distinguishing Bitcoiners right now from, I don't want to say from everybody else in the world, but from the other powers that be in the world. We just have this truth machine and this truth community, and it's pursuing the truth that freedom is better than enslavement. So
Yeah,
that makes me real bullish.
I think it's such a great thing to be bullish on. I mean, many Bitcoiners are bullish on Bitcoiners and bullish on the plebs. Right. And I think what's so beautiful to me is that the plebs truly are plebs. I just was at a conference this weekend in Germany, and it was only about like 150 or 200 people, something like that. And I talked and drank with so many plebs. We had such a great time. And those are just really regular people that just they're fed up with the bullshit, and they just want to have sound money, and they want to, be free with their finances. They don't want anyone else to tell them what they can spend money on or what they can do with their money. And this is such a strong movement. I think most people are still underestimating that. And I think we are at a stage now where everyone knows a Bitcoiner, but you don't necessarily know that you know a Bitcoiner. And I think there will come a time where, you know, like, I think if it gets rough out there, I think like with other social movements previously, I think, you know, the pleb army will rise to the occasion, and there will be, you know, like political pressure will be there, I think. And it's already very hard to be against Bitcoin because there are so many Bitcoiners, but it will be exponentially harder. Like with every passing day, it gets exponentially harder.
I love that you mentioned also that Bitcoiners aren't necessarily in it for wealth. Like, obviously over the long term, we anticipate Bitcoin becoming and continuing to be a better form of money, and for purchasing power to appreciate, but that's not the focus. And you see that in the mentality, because Bitcoiners are oddly juxtaposed to a background of shitcoin or crypto bros that are like, you know, 100x gains in a month, and they're like, everybody's like, oh, I'm flipping this for that, and there's no conviction in anything that they're like. And even if they say that, oh yeah, I'm convicted when it comes to this coin and this coin, it's flavor of the week, right? Yeah. And they do want their Lambos. And then you see Bitcoiners, you get somebody like, I saw a post from Alex Svetsky, and he was like in a gym and he was working out, and somebody zoomed in on his socks and there were holes in them, and they're like, dude, you need new socks. He's like, nah man, got to stack sats. I can't afford new socks. Like that's it. Again, I mean, Bitcoiners made saving cool again. That's what the goal.
Bitcoin enabled saving again. We couldn't save in an inflationary currency, and so it forced people into the markets. People aren't investors because they want to be. They're investors because they have to be. The people are just trying to maintain what, you know, their store of their time and their energy that is the true scarce things to them. And Bitcoin has finally enabled that. And what I found is that it actually motivates me to work, because I don't work, you know, more and more and more because I need to at an increasing rate. I do it because I feel like I'm being rewarded for it, because I'm able to store that in a way that isn't going to melt away.
I think you said this before, but other cryptocurrencies Bitcoin only, because, you know, back in 2011 I first heard of Bitcoin and I just saw it as a technology, really interesting technology at the time. It was, you had blockchain, the only blockchain, and you had proof of work, really interesting tech. And then a few years later I realized that what was more important was the economy, the economics. So, you know, you have the 21 million fixed supply, you know, sound money and ideal money theory and right around it. But then eventually I decided to stay with Bitcoin because of the philosophy. It's the low time preference, self-sovereignty. And these ideas and philosophies are so different from everything else we see in the space. In fact, almost everything else is basically the existing system with a bit of tech around it. And 10 times more dystopian, or if not 100 times more dystopian than what we have now. If those things were ever, they won't, it would be a horrible, horrible, horrible world. You know? So whereas with Bitcoin, it actually, and you had it with Michael Saylor, it's hope. It's a whole philosophy of a way of living, and everybody who gets into Bitcoin and understands it starts changing their behavior. They start being more patient, more stoic, more analytical, questioning of authority, which holds them to account. All of these good things that lead to a more meritocratic society. That's why it must win. That's why it has to win. And that's why we have to do everything possible to get as many people onto this and into this path as we possibly can. Whether the money does not matter, it's the mission. And that's why we're really excited about it here.
Yeah. You know, Oh,
Sorry, I just want to quickly mention that's like what shout out to Firehas who said this long ago. Bitcoin will succeed because it has to succeed. You know, Bitcoin will succeed because it must. There is no alternative. You know, so we must do everything in our power to make it succeed, and also to contrast it to shitcoins and kind of the rest of the world. You know, I include fiat currencies in the shitcoin basket too. It's American Hodl said this so beautifully. You know, like shitcoinism is nihilism. You know, it's just, you know, you want to have fiat gains and you know, blow it on hookers and blow and Lambos. And as you said, you know, Bitcoin is hope, and I also think Bitcoin is optimism. I think NVK is still his name on Twitter is deterministic optimism. Bitcoin is relentless optimistic. You know, it's relentless optimism, and you really feel that. And I think most Bitcoiners nowadays, they are truly in it to fix the money, not for the money itself. They're in it to fix the money, and that's something to behold.
Yeah. My last comment
on this. Fix the money, fix the world.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'd written like 4 or 5 articles in the series I called "Who Are the Bitcoiners," and I really wanted to dig into this because the process of becoming a Bitcoiner, I have one article in there that it changes you, and I try to describe why and how, because you have to be curious, you have to learn about economics, you have to learn about the technology, you have to learn about the philosophy, as you guys were saying, and the process of, and you have to learn about the value of telling the truth. And so that process, the article is called "Rich or Poor, Bitcoiners Have What Money Can't Buy." It makes you more intelligent. It makes you more honest. It makes you more truthful. It changes you, and so you end up, and it makes you a person who is worthy of having friends and being somebody else's friend. And so I point out, Bitcoiners actually, whether you have a lot of Bitcoin or not, you have things that money can't buy, because money can't buy integrity. It cannot buy intelligence. It cannot buy real friends. It cannot buy love. And so this is what we're actually talking about here, right? The transformation of becoming and if you reject those things and those lessons, then you end up outside, as we said, about like the shitcoiners or the Bitcoin critics who suffer from this derangement syndrome of, I don't want to live in a world where I have to acknowledge the truth as true. I want to make up an imaginary pretend world that you can print money out of nothing, and that some value will come from somewhere, where, who, I'm going to pretend I don't know. And
I think most people have to go through what some people call an ego death before they can join the Bitcoin club. Because
that's so true,
essentially what you have to do is you have to admit, not only to yourself, but probably to someone who might be bugging you about Bitcoin, that you were wrong. And you were so wrong.
Yeah.
And it could have been so right, but you still can be right if you admit that to yourself.
The best thing, like the best feature in Bitcoin is the longer it takes you to admit that, the more painful it will be. So that's like it just, the pain will increase and increase and increase. It's
but a beautiful feature about Bitcoin is, as soon as you say you're ready, Bitcoin lets you in. Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin does not say, well, you owe me this, you owe me that. Bitcoin is permissionless, and no matter what you try to do to Bitcoin will not hold a grudge.
The Dunning-Kruger effect is more true for Bitcoin than for anything else ever.
One of the most deeply insidious things that I regularly see is when Bitcoin Tina replies to somebody with, "You will buy in at a much higher price," because he is actually like making them so angry by saying that they purposely will not buy it for a longer period of time and hurting themselves even more.
The best thing you can say to a butthurt no coiner, I guess. But I think it's so like it sounds like crazy talk when you first hear this, you know, that Bitcoin changes you and it makes you more stoic and so on and so forth. And I wish that we just had recently the chance to talk to Jordan Peterson, and he's all about the transformation of the individual and so on and so forth. And I think Bitcoin has a very large role to play. And I wish we would have had the time to talk about this some more, because I think most people frame it as the lowering of time preference, and that's definitely the case. Bitcoin is when it comes to opportunity cost, Bitcoin is the ultimate judge. Like it's there's this website, bitcoinorshit.com, and you can buy the new AirPods or whatever, but you could also buy Bitcoin, and it lists all the stupid things that you probably bought and how much Bitcoin you would have if you would have stacked sats instead. Right. But what is the most interesting thing to me is that it also to use Bitcoin properly, it will teach you that you have to take responsibility, right? Like Mt. Gox taught this a lot of people, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, and you will have to become Bitcoin to use Bitcoin properly. And it sounds so outrageous, but you will have to learn to hold your own keys, and you will have to learn to run your own node, because nobody can tell you what Bitcoin is. You have to define this for yourself. You have to find out for yourself what Bitcoin is to you. And also, this is an endless process. Bitcoin will change in the future, and we will have a new soft fork or a new fork, whatever, and you will have to define the consensus rules yourself. Only you can say what Bitcoin is. And this process of becoming Bitcoin and taking on the responsibility, I think most people do not understand what's going on here. And it's that's also why Bitcoin, nobody can interfere with you and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is you. You can have 12 words in your head. Nobody can steal this from you, and you run your own node. Nobody can take this away from you. And if it comes to it, you only have to find, another person to play Bitcoin with. And this is Bitcoin, that's how it works. And I think it's quite a fascinating thing that most people don't understand. I think this has a part to play of the transformation of the individual, because you actually have to kind of become one with Bitcoin to truly use it to its fullest potential.
I actually think Bitcoin might be the single biggest, and I know we don't really like the whole ESG talk, but that Bitcoin might be the single best thing for the environment globally because of how it changes time preference. And I've written a little bit about this before on Twitter, but
of course,
essentially it makes you really, really, really consider your buying decisions. Now, I bought a dog before I ever bought Bitcoin, and I worked it out. I looked it up. I call him Whole Coiner now. He's worth every single sat. But you look at some other object in something inanimate, something that is not one of your loved ones, and you go, do I really, really need that? And with Bitcoin, you actually decide, no, I don't need that. I'm going to continue to try and build my store of my energy and my time for the future, such that I can take something back of an equivalent value from the market in the future, and it not be something that I don't need. So actually people adopting Bitcoin more and more and more will drive down this rampant consumerism that actually is the biggest cause of environmental problems globally.
I'd like to, since Gigi brought it up, really quick before we round out this topic, let's just do a couple clicks of bitcoinorshit.com since you mentioned it. Shout out to Rohan. Can everybody see my screen right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So anybody that's listening to this on the pod later, bitcoinorshit.com. I'm going to get you guys and myself, I'm going to click. It says, if you bought Bitcoin instead of fucking stupid shit, you'd have, and then add like a dollar amount and an amount of Bitcoin. So I'm going to click, and when I click, I'll read what it is. And if you own this item, put up your hand. Right. It doesn't mean you bought it when it was brand new, but hey, okay. Oh God. If you bought Bitcoin instead of a fucking PlayStation Vita, you'd have $876,000 or 18.73 Bitcoin. Did anybody get a PS Vita? No, nobody did. Okay, well, good for you guys. All right, next. If you got Bitcoin instead of a fucking porno premium, we have 14.
I don't have a hand, but I have something that floats.
I can't say that I paid for that.
One of the plebs changed their node name to Pornhub.com recently. And I was very confused because it's one of my connections. I'm going, what? And then, oh, right, it's just P. It's just P.
That's awesome. Let's do one more here. Okay. If you bought Bitcoin instead of a fucking Apple HomePod, you'd have $1,600 or 0.03 Bitcoin. Anybody? No. I don't
understand why any Bitcoiners have kind of listening devices in their house. Yeah, I'm shocked that anyone has an electric.
Okay, I'm wearing a Beat Solo HD right now, but I just
there you go.
Okay.
It's almost 4,000 Bitcoins.
I bought it earlier this year. I bought it earlier this year.
That's
I
okay
didn't
then.
buy it
Not when
originally.
it first came out.
Yeah. So,
But I paid more than
funniest one-
$199 for it.
Anybody listening, if you
The funniest one was if you bought a Bitcoin instead of Bitcoin for Dummies. That was the funniest.
So anybody out there with Beats Solo HD that bought them when they first came out, you'd have $186 million or just shy of 4,000 Bitcoins. So yeah, this is, I mean, this is a good, it highlights the consumerism that we live in. And when your money doesn't hold its value or increase in value over time, yeah, of course you're going to buy all this crap consistently. And I mean, I've had like we didn't have an example here, but there's tons of dumb shit that I've bought previously that I didn't need, and you know, you learn. But
We learned.
You learn.
let's keep it going. Gigi, I know you were talking a little bit, but I want to pass it to
Actually,
you now. Oh, sorry. Oh, Obi. I
Sorry,
think you
Obi, you were breaking up.
No, it's breaking. Internet's stable. I'll try and sort it out. Carry on.
Okay, cool. No worries. So Gigi, I'm going to pass it to you. My friend, what has you feeling bullish this week? Let's start our second to last topic.
So I'm insanely bullish on Lightning. Like, you guys have no idea. There's so much awesome stuff being built. And what I think hit yesterday or 2 days ago is the Lightning address, which is an email address that you can pay Lightning payments to, and it's built up on LN URL.
Cool.
And it's such a cool little smart protocol using existing like other protocols that already exist to throw something together that if you own a domain and you have an email address and you have control over this email address, you can set up a combination of, you know, like DNS records and some other things that allows other wallets to understand this address. And you basically have something like a Lightning cash tag, you know, like I haven't set it up yet, but in the future you will be able just to send me Lightning payments to hi@Gigi.com, for example. And it's so awesome what's going on there. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. Like, the last couple of weeks, I also worked with the Podcasting 2.0 guys, the guys from Podcast Index, and the fact that streaming payments work and exist, and that you can listen to a podcast and stream Satoshis to different people, you know, all across the world, and that this works already. And this is, you know, like, this is basically day zero of Lightning, you know, like it just has started and it will only get better. And another thing that has me insanely bullish is also part of the LN URL specification, that since you are a Bitcoiner, you already have a private key, and you can use this private key to authenticate yourself to online services. And for example, Stacker.news, the Bitcoin Hacker News, like Stacker News is an awesome site, uses that. And you can log in with GitHub, you can log in with Twitter, or you can log in with Lightning. And you click the thing and the QR code pops up and you scan the QR code and you're logged in. It's so amazing. And like, just be aware that this exists, because this is only bound to grow, and it has me so bullish. And you heard it here first. Bitcoin is not only digital real estate.
Yeah,
it is so much more.
You shared that login thing the other day, and I was like, oh, what the hell is this? And I clicked on it, and it was like, oh, try logging in with Breeze Wallet. And I literally just scanned it, and it asked me, I think it said, do you want to authenticate or something? And then I hit yes. Yeah. And it's the website was like, congratulations, you logged in anonymously to this website.
Yeah, it blows your mind, right? It blows your mind. That's why I built this, because I saw it on Stacker News and I'm like, nobody knows about this. Why does nobody know about this? And so I built this lightning login.live page, which just is a demo and a showcase and some explanation, some links to libraries and documentation. Shout out to Fiat Jeff, who basically built all this stuff. I just, you know, like I just threw it together and made it look kind of nice so that you can spam it on Twitter. And I plan in the future, every single service that forces me to come up with a username and a password, especially if it is in the Lightning ecosystem, I will destroy you on social media. I will spam this link and I will demand that I can log in with Lightning, because it's so amazing. And it's only, you know, like it's the first couple of standards that are built up on Lightning. We will, so much more is coming down the pipe, and we can iterate so quickly because we don't necessarily need any changes on the base layer. It's amazing. If this stuff doesn't have you bullish, you don't know enough yet.
Yeah, I think that this is, I'll just go quickly, Walton. Like, the first time you really start using Lightning, it's again like the first time you ever used Bitcoin or the first time you ever used the internet, or you're when you lose your virginity on one of these things, it's like, wow, it's incredible. Like I tried to use it. I bought this shirt with Lightning. And when I first started getting into Lightning, I was looking for all these opportunities, and I was filling up gas at the gas station. I'm like, you have to authenticate your payment, you have to pre-deposit $200 so that you can then pump some gas, and then you have to get a return. And it's a very well, you just stream, scan my thing, and I can stream gas while I stream Satoshis back to the gas station, and there's all these things that you're actually streaming, right? There's a stream of gas going into your car, there's a stream of electricity coming into my house, there's a stream of water coming into my house. So even just the streaming applications, when you start to think about it, start to blow your mind away.
At the conference in Germany, we had, it wasn't streaming yet, but almost, and you can see where this is going. There was like a beer thingy where you just pay with Lightning, and it's simply the beer starts streaming, the beer starts running, and it was 21 cents a beer, and someone actually managed to spend over $1 by just drinking beer at the thing. So calculated, I think Moscow time is currently like 22 or something, 2,200. So it was a lot of beers. If one beer costs 21 cents and you get over $1.
I had thought about this, but you can stream like half a pint, a quarter of a pint, like 0.26157th of a pint, like whatever you want per sip. Because
to me, Lightning really completes the concept from the white paper of having that peer-to-peer intermediary free currency, and it's just phenomenal what is already available on it. You've got companies out there like Zebedee with JC and Michael creating connections from the layer 2 Lightning level to applications on top, so you can play Counter-Strike and earn Satoshis as you play in a dynamic way. I've been playing a little bit of Lightning poker with some friends. We created a little club a few months back. We've been playing regularly. There's going to be now a Lightning poker tournament at TabConf in November. We're going to raise a load of money, and money's going to go to charities to support core devs, because the Bitcoin community really cares about contributing back to it, because it makes us all stronger, and it just makes a great society, and that's what I look forward to.
I mean, I spent before Bitcoin, I spent maybe 15 years working in CTO of various European e-commerce companies, sort of .com 1 and .com 2 multinational e-commerce companies. And what I realized when I saw Bitcoin was, at that time, very, early on, you could still make payments with Bitcoin and pay relatively low fees, etc. I could see that as this scales and you reach critical mass, it would be such a no-brainer for a merchant to receive payments in Bitcoin. Everybody talks about the fees for paying by credit card or debit cards, 2-3% or so on. But that's just one of the costs. The other issue you have is that you don't necessarily have access to that money for 45 days. So you now have to take out a loan. You have to take out a loan, invoice financing, to cover the gap. There's interest on that. That's another cost that you have as a merchant. It's a bearer asset, so you have immediate ability to use that money. So you don't have that 45-day delay. You also have a risk, which is a cost, because as there's all the mechanisms for the buyer to get their money back 10, 20, 30 days later. And so you have to calculate that risk and put a cost onto that. And the other cost is accounting. So as an exchange, we have to do the accounting of the crypto side and the accounting of the fiat side. And I can tell you that it's no exaggeration that 90 to 95% of our costs are all the fiat accounting. Because when you make payments for things, they disappear into the banking system, they get delayed, their reconciliation. All the
intermediaries taking their cut.
Yeah. You're doing double entry accounting, but on the crypto side, it's 100,000 entry accounting. Every single node is validating that. You in 8.5 years, we haven't had a Satoshi of difference. It always adds up exactly with zero need to pay for an army of accountants. So when you add all these costs, I think it's no exaggeration to say, once you have a sufficient number of your clients, of your customers by crypto, it will save you somewhere between 5 on the conservative to 10% overall over receiving money in the fiat system. So the only issue was, for the user, it needs to be cheap and fast. Lightning solves that. So now Lightning solves that. And you know, as a technologist, I've wanted to wait until it's got to a certain level of maturity. And now what I see is like error rates, and when you want to send payments, even at half a Bitcoin or above, are very, very low. It's got to a level of maturity that we can now start integrating in and using it for our customers. I think you're going to find other exchanges are going to look at it now. In the last 6 months, it's just gone from growing really well to it's mature enough, we can integrate it, and other people will be doing that as well. And it's really exciting because as soon as you give a merchant the 2 options and there's a critical mass of users, wait for them to do one accounting return, 1 quarter, and see the difference. Wait a minute, this took 0, and I have a whole team, we're always rushing to me our year-end return, and this one was pressing a button. That alone will be like, okay, we've got to incentivize customers to pay in Bitcoin. They will offer discounts to receive money in Bitcoin because it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I was just about to say that we already see this. You know, there are some, like Mulvad, the VPN provider, for example, offers a 10% discount if you pay Bitcoin. I think if you as a merchant know Bitcoin and are a Bitcoiner, you will happily take the better money. You know, it's way less friction, because why would I want to receive fiat? I have to buy Bitcoin with it anyway. So if I get Bitcoin directly, I can happily give a discount. And just so that it's out there again, I think, you know, if you're a baller, I think 21% discount is not outrageous. I think it should be the default.
Right. That's beautiful. I was going to add one other, maybe the flip. It's 2 things because they're both sides of the same coin. One is Lightning, of course, solves the fungibility problem, and it solves it because we agree with whoever we open a channel with that the Satoshis in that channel are perfectly fungible. Right? Like if I open a channel with you, Walton, there's an agreement, but in you accepting that channel, that those are not tainted coins, and you can choose to reject it. You can do some chain analytics if you choose, but those Satoshis are never leaving our channel. Right? When I pay Gigi, it's because I've agreed with you that those Satoshis are fungible, and you've agreed with the next person downstream, and so on and so forth, that those coins are fungible. And so we are self-sovereign in determining which coins are or aren't tainted. I personally have a view that none are, but other people might have a view, and they're welcome to not open a channel with someone whose coins they believe are tainted, and that's no problem. They'll never receive tainted coins on Lightning because they only open up channels with other counterparties whose coins they deem to be clean. And so it completely solves the whole problem of fungibility, and it doesn't give it in the hands of some chain analytics company or some government. It's us as self-sovereign. The House of Tomer Strolite opens up a channel with the House of Walton, and it'll stay for 100,000 years, and because we've agreed to do that.
Do you have a flag already and all the jazz? You need to be a proper Citadel house.
Soon, it's coming. Lightning is early. Right, but my Lightning channels are open for not just for my life, forever.
When the surname Strolite, it'll be a very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So those of you that are watching or listening that have not dove down the Lightning rabbit hole, it's time, friends. You got to try it out. You know, you can start as basic as just getting a mobile app and testing out some payments. There's some great ones, non-custodial ones. Breeze is great. Phoenix is pretty awesome. Moon is a good one. All of those. Yeah, Wallet of Satoshi is an easy, like instant onboarding where you don't have to really do anything. There's so many options out there. And then if you decide to dive down the rabbit hole and manage a Lightning node later on, that's a whole other can of worms that is equally fun and exciting as your first dive into Bitcoin. So check it out. Please do. You're going to love it. But with that, we're going to jump to Walton now. Dude, you have our final reason for being bullish this week. Gigi, thank you for I'm so glad you brought up Lightning, but Walton, it's off to you. What has you excited?
It's a good thing I have a pen and paper here, because I was going to talk about Lightning, but I've got some other ideas. So the thing that makes me most bullish about Bitcoin, and it's kind of always has been, certainly this year, but for a number of months, is actually Bitcoiners themselves, specifically their creativity. And I think the reason why the creativity is so phenomenal comes back to what we talked about earlier about criticism. The idea that we can sharpen our ideas with diamond hands and diamond minds, not diamond minds, diamond brains maybe. But it applies to so many different things. I think Bitcoin, the creativity of Satoshi was particularly in game theory. I think Bitcoin, more than anything else, is a phenomenal revolution of the game theory, where actors that may have interests that are competing or against others actually contribute to the overall security. When you look at miners, certainly that's very much the case. The creativity of Bitcoin is, started with Satoshi, but it's evolved so much. We have so many people who are able to write phenomenal words or speak great words, people who are able to create visual words, memes. We have, phenomenal people who can build all these different solutions that can build new technology on top of Bitcoin, like Lightning, or on top of Lightning, all these other tools to help node runners, to help merchants, to help applications. We have, great researchers, great educators, and there's a place for everyone if you're intellectually honest, if you want to iterate on solid foundations,
and if you're humble enough
to be open to the criticism, exactly, then there's a place for you, and there always will be. And it's never too late to join this community, and it's never too late to buy Bitcoin.
I like that. I like
buy
that
Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the creativity aspect. I want to give a shout out to somebody that was just on the pod with Gigi and Jordan Peterson, Richard James, who did recently just dropped Petrodollars, which was another great self-contained 30-minute film, which is fantastic and just kind of documents kind of the fruition of the US dollar's effective pegging, coercive pegging to oil. And it's very informative. It's excellent. And he's done I think that's his third film now, but he's fantastic, and hats off to him. It's based on an article by Alex Gladstein. Big portions of the film are narrated from the Bitcoin Audible version narrated by Guy Swan, and then there's also excerpts. I think I heard Nick Carter in there and Alex Gladstein himself. So anyways, it's awesome. Shout out to him for his creative mind and putting that together.
Yeah, shout out to him. If you haven't seen the movie yet, definitely watch it. Petrodollar, and the other one was Hard Money, I think.
Hard Money.
And I think he also did one about the anatomy of the state, I think.
Yes.
Something like that. But I also want to tag on to what Walton said about the game theory, and Alex Gladstein said this beautifully. Like, Bitcoin is a machine that transforms greed into freedom. I think everyone in Bitcoin is perfectly fine with acting in his own self-interest. I would argue most Bitcoiners are actually not that insanely selfish. But the game theory is set up in a way that you kind of have to be selfish, and you support the system with your greed and with your selfishness, definitely from the mining and security perspective, also from the sat stacking perspective. We are all selfish when it comes to stacking sats, I think. And I think it's such an underappreciated aspect of the whole system, the game theory behind it. And of course, you know, like it goes even beyond that. I think the game theory in Lightning is something to behold too. So if you've
I'd
never
like
read
to
the
say, sorry, briefly, Gigi,
Yeah.
the fee market in Lightning is the only free market economy in the world right now.
There you go.
And it's happening. It's happening. And you can be a part of it if you join PlebNet.
Yeah, it's something to behold. And yeah, I can just encourage everyone to think about these issues and you know, like read the material and read the Lightning white paper. You know, like it's amazing how this works and what kind of game theory is at play. So that makes it all work.
Omer, Obi, any thoughts on the creativity of Bitcoiners?
Yeah, it was beautiful the way you recited it, Walton, kind of doing this litany or this inventory of the different types of creativity that the community keeps growing into. And it's like a branching tree, which keeps branching and branching and branching and welcoming more and more people with more and more skills, right? Like
it's a geographically decentralized
totally and
society, new society.
Yeah, it's a new society of that. All you have to do to enter this society, you can be anywhere in the world, is to be honest and put in work, and it's honest work. Like this is the moral code of Bitcoin. Honest work, and more and more people. And I think we're kind of at the stage because I've wanted to work in Bitcoin since I first heard about it and fell down the rabbit hole. And the only opportunities were to work at exchanges that also sold shitcoins, and I felt I wouldn't do it because I'd be working against Bitcoin if I was doing that. And now things have gotten to the point where I can say I'm going to write, and there's going to be somebody who might pay me sometime for writing, but the work is good, honest work, and I appreciate it. And I get together at Bitcoin meetups, and more of the people are finding work opportunities at companies that do something that support Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. Some are fiat miners, right? They run a restaurant, they do something else, they collect fiat and they turn it into Bitcoin, which is perfectly moral as well. But it's also really, really exciting to see. I won't list off all the companies, but I was at a small Bitcoin meetup the other day, and there were people there who were working at Casa. This was in Canada, so there were people there working at Bull Bitcoin, at HODL, at LEDN, and it was just really, really nice to see that people are finding a way to work within the ecosystem, providing more and more value. And so this is a frontier that's being developed, and there's more and more stores, if you will, on in this new frontier. So I think it really is glorious, and we watch it grow exponentially. Right? It's not. The fact that I'm actually getting together with people and everybody is getting an opportunity to earn money by working for Bitcoin is really profound.
Obi, go ahead.
I would go. So I've tweeted about meme artists in Bitcoin for a while now, and I'm fortunate enough to know good few. There's a lot in the UK. We're really talented at like poking fun at people. So I mean, just like there's loads, and I'll miss RDBTC that was mentioned earlier. You've got Chief Monkey, Self-Banked. You've got Bitcoin Meme Hub. You've got some really interesting meme artists out there. But not just that. You've got people who do incredible podcasts like Daniel Prince and Once Bitten, Max Bit by Bit, and you guys, BTC Sessions, of course. But and I didn't do any public speaking for until a few years ago, and since then now in the last few years I've done a lot of public speaking. I write also a weekly article for BTC Times. I've been doing it for about a year, and all of this sort of creative energy has come from this passion around doing something and being part of this movement related to Bitcoin. And I think that's where all these meme artists are getting their energy from. It's really interesting for me to be, I mean, I run an exchange, but my view is actually, when we look back on it, we're going to realize that the meme artists, the educators, the people who are talking about it are actually going to be the most important element for why Bitcoin succeeded and will continue to succeed. because it is a philosophy, and philosophy requires sharing by information, by imagery, and so on. Any other philosophy has stood the test of thousands of years. They've had very strong words and images and sounds and songs and so on. And this is where you see it all the way through the original YouTube songs that we had years ago that we still remember, and to all of the writing and all the imagery. And I think that the educational aspects of those and the power of those is what is going to cause Bitcoin to
there's a cultural revolution.
Just briefly, I think I like to say that Bitcoin takes care of the future, and it enables you to focus on your present. And I think what you referenced there, Obi, about people being able to kind of explore their creativity is probably as a result of that. Their future is more liberated, and so they have the headspace to achieve these higher states of actualization and creativity. And it's a phenomenal thing.
I bet you anyone in 100 years time, I mean, we're very passionate about exchange, and I'm sure Jack Mallers is passionate about Strike and so on. But in 100 years time, there will be different businesses. But there will be an image from Bitcoin Meme Hub or RDBTC or Self-Banked. I can bet you there will be some images or memes or songs.
They will be still around.
From YouTube.
It's the history. It's the history.
Xiaotong or something that will, in 100 years time, will still be being played. You know, you'll be going into halls and they'll be like, people be singing, reciting these songs. You know, and that's a passion. That's going to be powerful.
If I could jump forward in time, if I could freeze myself and jump forward 100 years and be peeking over the historian's shoulder as he analyzed a meme of Elon with dildo eyes, it would just it would be
some might last longer than others.
Timeless. It's art.
I would just want to add, like, I when you mentioned Chief Monkey, one of my first Lightning transactions, and he along with Jonat Vax created this work of art that they sold at I think at a conference, and they made a book out of it, and I couldn't afford the actual multi-coin thing, but I was able to buy this over Lightning, and Jonat put it together for me, and I live across the pond, and we didn't have to go through exchange rates, and she accepted Lightning, and I was able to send Lightning, and it was really beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. I'm gonna take much better care of it than I had been planning now, because I know it needs to last for hundreds of years. I'm gonna preserve it as part of the record. But the ability for us to connect with one another globally is exactly what Walton was talking about, and you just concretized it perfectly from another personal experience of mine, which is I wanted to reach out to another Bitcoiner, and now we've established a friendship and a relationship, and we talk reasonably often about things, and the borders are not an obstacle, and there's no obstacles, and we can exchange value with one another.
I think it's so spot on what Obi said, and I 100% agree. And I think it's really something, because a lot of people say there is no Bitcoin community, and I don't actually know where I stand on that, because it kind of is true and it kind of isn't true. But it's definitely, you need something to rally around, and I think the meme artists and the shared culture is definitely something to rally around. And we saw how important this was with the user activated soft fork, and it will be important going forward, because again, no one can tell you. There is no one in the world who can tell you what Bitcoin is. You have to decide for yourself. So you need to convince your brothers and sisters what your view of Bitcoin is. And memes are excellent at that. Memes are information warfare. And I always like to say, of course, we need to make use of information warfare, because Bitcoin is pure information. That's what it is. It's an informational construct. The only thing you can do about Bitcoin is to fight it with bad information. And that's what we currently see being played out. The mainstream media attacks it with bad information. Wow. The politicians attack it with bad information. The legislators attack it with bad information. And we Bitcoiners, we create a counter narrative with good information, with memes and with articles and writing and other things. And this is where this field is being played out. And this is also where the culture grows. We don't have churches. We have Bitcoin Twitter, and this is where, but I'm serious, this is where the songs are being played. This is where, it's exactly right what you said, and it's a new thing, and it's a weird thing, but memes play such an important role. I love it.
Can I just ask?
We're about 100 times funnier than any one of our detractors.
Totally.
Yeah,
Can I
we've
just
got
ask-
the best memes, and it's not even close. It's not
Easy.
even close.
Not yet. Nobody else has a good meme. Has Francis, to come full circle, has Francis walked back her comments, or does she still
No,
insist?
she instead turned her account private today, thereby essentially blocking all of Bitcoin Twitter.
Unless she plugs in.
Fragile.
Imagine her engagement is going to be so much
Anti-fragile.
lower now. Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the right move, right? Just unplug your Twitter account. I mean, it's obvious.
That way nobody can send you any bad tweets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Thereby proving your point.
yeah. I think now that we brought it full circle, this is a great place to wrap up. Gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure. Again, always the best part of my week, sitting and chilling out with some Bitcoiners, talking about things we're so excited about. And for a show called Why Are We Bullish? I love how seldom the price is even mentioned, because there's so much more to be.
Once.
Yeah, there's so much more to be bullish about.
Exactly.
You mean 1 equals 1, and it always will do. That's the only price you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. So, gentlemen, I will say thank you so much. Let's go down the line one more time. If you can just who you are, what you do, where people can find you, that kind of thing would be great. Obi, to you first.
Obi, CoinFloor is our exchange, and you can find me on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for a while, so my Twitter handle's Obi, O-B-I.
Perfect.
And you can also find weekly on BTC Times as well.
Awesome. Cool. Yes, check out BTC Times. It's solid. Tomer, how about yourself?
I write a lot about Bitcoin on Medium, so tomerstrolight.medium.com. There's some really fun pieces. There's a lot of short pieces. There's some profound pieces that I try to dive into really interesting philosophical issues about Bitcoin. And I'm at tomerstrolight on Twitter, and I try to shitpost as often as I can.
Awesome. Gigi, how about you?
I'm there, Gigi, on Twitter. I don't even have to try shit posting. It comes natural. That's basically all I do. And my writing is on their gigi.com. And I also wrote a book called 21 Lessons, which you can read online on 21lessons.com. And yeah, I'm currently working on my new book, 21 Ways. And yeah, the rest is on GitHub. So I'm writing code too, but only 144 blocks in the day. So it's difficult to do everything at once.
Yeah. Awesome. And Walton, take us away.
I essentially live on Clubhouse. You can also find me on Twitter. Both are at AEHW1. I'm sure you see it in a tweet. I am an educator. I like to talk about principles. I like to talk about economics. I like to talk about game theory. I like to talk about technology. I like to make memes. And the key thing that I champion is plebnet, which is the community focused on enabling the last step towards being fully sovereign in Bitcoin, and that is running your own Lightning node. You can do this anonymously, even if you're in the community, but it's the place to find the best connections, the best girth, as we call it.
Yes.
And the best community. And to further that education, plebnet are actually going to be co-hosting a space at TabConf in November with Start9, the Independence Village, focused on helping people achieve that independence digitally. I'm also going to be there as the MC. So it's going to be my first Bitcoin conference. I'm very excited. So yeah, be at TabConf in November. DM me if you want a discount link.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. And anybody watching, of course, all of their Twitter profiles are going to be linked in the show notes. So be sure to check them out. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening if you're on the pod afterwards. Of course, please do hit like, subscribe, and share. All of those things help so much. They help get this show in front of more eyeballs. If you want to help with the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors down below. That was LEDN, Bitbuy, Bitrefill, Keystone, BillFodl over at privacypros.io. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin tip at my strike.me page. That is strike.me/BTC sessions. When you get there, you can type in any amount you like. You hit the tip button, you will be greeted with one, a QR Lightning URL, or if you click to the right, a regular Bitcoin QR code, and whatever tickles your fancy. Thank you guys again, as always, and have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.